We went from throwing a caution for a seemingly harmless brush against the wall for Kyle Busch to not throwing the black flag for something a bit more troublesome at the end of the Richmond race. Let's break it down. Hey everyone, and welcome to Above the Yellow Line. My name is Taylor Kitchen, and we do motorsports media your way right here. We're on the home channel for something a little bit more controversial, opinionated. On the Toby Christie comment channel, Toby Christie and I talked about the Richmond race from the track, so if you want more of an analysis about our thoughts on that, the tire wear, etc., go watch that video. I will link it in the description below. But for right now, stay here because a lot of you following that video asked me to talk more in depth about a certain situation that happened on the track in that overtime finish. And now that we have comments from all parties involved, including an updated comment from Denny Hamlin from Actions Detrimental, it's time to talk about it. All of this began after a late race caution from Bubba Wallace and Kyle Larson. Wallace ran into the back of Kyle Larson, and that caused the caution that got us into the overtime finish. And before you even question it, Bubba Wallace did approach Kyle Larson following the race. They had a laugh about it. Bubba was like, I hope you know this was not intentional. Great video, by the way, from Noah Lewis capturing this moment right here.
That wasn't intentional. I hope you know that.
Yeah,
I got loose and corrected into you.
It all worked out for me.
I know it netted you, and karma's a fucking bitch. It caught up to me.
It's all good.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good.
Whatever.
Larson was able to recover from this for a top 5 finish. Bubba Wallace was not calling it, quote, karma. He finished in 13th. But like I said, this led to the overtime restart where the moment in question happened where Denny Hamlin jumped the restart supposedly. And I say supposedly because NASCAR said this restart was okay, but let's take a look at it. So I'm watching this again with you all, and in my opinion, it's clear that Hamlin got a very early launch in that restart zone, and the rule is that the leader can fire off anywhere between that first and that second line once they enter the restart zone, and it's very clear here that Hamlin launches right before he hits that first line. And it's very evident, again, by this in-car camera from Martin Truex Jr., and Martin actually talks about this moment on his in-car radio.
He went early. Still you in 11, stay in your lane. Still you in 11, 2 off the 2 wide.
Following the race, Truex showed his displeasure in a way that I've never seen him. He was more frustrated than I've ever seen him in all of my time watching NASCAR, watching his career. He put the front bumper to Denny Hamlin's back bumper, and he spoke to the media about his anger following the race. Here is what he had to say.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like 11 used me up down there in turn 1, and I didn't really appreciate teammate racing me like that. I wish you would have, gave me a chance.
What's so disappointing about this is Martin Truex Jr. dominated this race, leading 228 laps. And he led all of this only to finish 4th after that restart and then having some contact with Kyle Larson. And I know we all think that Martin Truex Jr. wins are typically the more boring ones, but that's because he dominates the race. There's nothing wrong with that. That's just what Martin Truex Jr. does. He wins races in dominant fashions. So a really big gut punch to all you Martin Truex Jr. fans out there. On the flip side, Denny Hamlin did talk about the question of did he jump that restart following the race. Here's what he had to say in his post-race press conference following his win for the Toyota Owners 400.
I went right at it for sure. I did that because I saw those guys rolling to me. The 22 was laying back. The 19 was rolling a couple miles an hour quicker than I was, so I wasn't going to let them have an advantage that my team earned on pit road. So certainly made sure once my nose got there, I took off right away. But still, we were side by side and down the water into turn 1.
So that's what he said after the race. Then, as I'm recording this today on Monday, on his podcast, Actions Detrimental, he concedes that he might have jumped the restart by maybe a few feet. And he went on to say this.
I see the restart zone. I'm coming off at turn 4, and all I'm doing is looking mirror side. And I guarantee you can go to my in-car, and you'll see my eyes just kind of bouncing between the two. And I'm mostly looking to the right. And I'm looking at the left front fender on the 19 car. And at that point, when I see him starting to creep, I'm like, I take off. So I don't see where I'm at in the zone. And so I concede definitely that it is a few feet early.
So he agrees it probably looks worse on TV than it maybe was to him in the moment. He also talked about, I thought it was very interesting, why he raced the way he did on that restart given what Logano and Truex were doing around him. So from what I heard from Denny Hamlin, he essentially is confessing in the most kind way possible that yes, I did jump the restart. I concede. It looks like I did go a few feet early. What will come of that, I have no clue. That's not my decision. But I do love how honest Denny Hamlin was about that. There's a power in having a podcast and having a way to say your own voice. We also have seen in the past, though, where Denny Hamlin has confessed to something about maybe intentionally wrecking somebody or something like that, and he's gotten a fine for it after speaking out about it on his podcast, telling the truth, and there we have it. So again, don't know what will come of this. If anything will, I kind of doubt it will, to be honest with you, because again, NASCAR made this final decision. That's in NASCAR's hands. It's not Denny Hamlin's to say or change. And don't get me wrong, I love seeing Denny Hamlin win. I think it's great for the sport. It creates conversation, and when Denny wins, he wins in several different ways. It's not always outright dominance like Martin Truex Jr. Sometimes it's from a great late race call from Chris Gabehart and his whole crew. Sometimes it's a great pit stop from the number 11 team, as we saw at Richmond, and got him ahead to control that restart. All of that to say, though, regardless of NASCAR's decision, Denny Hamlin's comments, everything in between, I do believe a rule is a rule. If he jumped the restart, he jumped the restart, and I really do think he should have been called out on it, especially if we're gonna call a caution for something earlier in the race for Kyle Busch that shouldn't have been a caution. I understand it was out of an abundance of caution to make sure that Kyle Busch didn't come back down on the track once he brushed the wall. But that's also a time where I'm like, wait till he starts to leave the wall a little bit more before you call that caution. And I bring that up to say that NASCAR had time to figure this out, if it was going to be a black flag or not for Denny Hamlin, because they had time to see that he did fire off before he hit that first line in the restart zone. They had time to consider this, and they did, but I don't think it was the call that we all visually saw. Now, I think if they wanted to solidify their opinion, they could release the SMT data, really show that, hey, he didn't fire off before that line, and our decision is final, and here's the concrete data to prove it. But I also understand why maybe they wouldn't release that data. That's not available to us, it's available to NASCAR and the teams. So I don't know. Elton Sawyer was asked about this during media availability at the NASCAR hauler following the race. I was there for it. He did answer the question. He was very vague about it, though. Here are his comments.
We reviewed it. Yeah, we reviewed that. We looked at it. Obviously, the 11 was the control vehicle. It was awful close, but we deemed it to be a good restart.
The whole point of that conversation with Elton Sawyer before all of that happened was to talk about the success of the wet weather tires, which, by the way, that type of tire compound, a softer tire compound, is showing that it is saving the short track racing that we have for that Gen 7 car. If we're not going to fix shifting, if we're not going to add horsepower, I think we need to start bringing a softer tire compound to all the short tracks that we go to. It was very evident by the racing we saw at North Wilkesboro and non-points paying race that we did use wet weather tires at. So we saw that. Obviously, Bristol had a softer tire compound. It wasn't a wet weather tire, but it was a softer tire compound that produced incredible action. So I would like Goodyear to keep that in mind going forward, but overall, they did a fantastic job navigating the trials and tribulations that the weather produced this weekend. So kudos to Goodyear and NASCAR for that. So in conclusion, we are not NASCAR. We are not the officials. We are either the media, we are the fans, we are the onlookers, seeing them make this decision, and we have to trust it and we have to respect it regardless. It is what it is, and we will move on to Martinsville, where all three series will be racing. So it's going to be a long weekend, but a fun weekend of action-packed racing, hopefully, fingers crossed. So beyond me just sharing my opinion of what I thought about this, I really wanted to give you guys a more in-depth look at all of the opinions happening here, the opinion of NASCAR, the opinion of Martin Truex Jr., the opinion of Denny Hamlin, everyone involved, why things happen the way they happen. So hopefully it helps. But to keep up to date with us, make sure to go to AboveTheYellowLine.com. Check out the links in our descriptions to our social media pages as well, and also TobyChristie.com. We go live every single Thursday night, sometimes Wednesdays, so just keep up to date with us there, and obviously check out TobyChristie.com for more NASCAR news throughout the week. Before you go, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, share this with your friends and family, and thank you all so much for listening to this episode of Above the Yellow Line, and until next time, I'll see ya. Bye.